What if we told you the blueprint for a hostile takeover of Canada was just put on full display for the entire world to see? It happened in Alaska. While Trump was rolling out the red carpet for Putin, they weren't just talking about Ukraine, they were laying the groundwork for what comes next for us.
Putin and Trump had their big Alaskan love fest on Friday, and if you were expecting a masterclass in diplomacy, you got a masterclass in global surrender instead.
Oh yeah, we saw it all. The red carpet rolled out for a man with an international arrest warrant for war crimes, right on American soil. Or as Trump calls Alaska, Russia. And then Trump, who spent more time as a defendant than a president, just waved Putin into the beast, the presidential limo, for a private chat. No interpreter allowed. What could possibly go wrong?
Russian state TV is calling it a triumph. The rest of the world is calling their emergency contacts. It wasn't quite a summit, it was a surrender ceremony on live television.
And if you're watching this from Canada and just shaking your head, you need to lean in closer, because what went down in Alaska wasn't just about Ukraine, it was a warning shot fired right over the 49th parallel.
We're going to unpack this entire Alaska disaster.
But first, a quick note. We've just launched something new, our Substack newsletter, and it's called Unfiltered North.
It's 100% free to subscribe, and it's where we go even deeper on this stuff. The link is right at the top of the description. See you over there. All right, let's break down the absolute train wreck we all witnessed last week. You had Putin with the classic KGB smirk, looking like the cat that just swallowed the entire G7, and then you had Trump with his wide-eyed fanboy act gazing lovingly. We saw the prequel in Helsinki, and this Alaskan sequel is 10 times worse.
It was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Putin praised Trump's strength, endorsed his lies, and Trump just beamed. The final scorecard from the 3-hour meeting? Putin 1, Trump 0. Putin got everything he wanted. A fractured NATO, global legitimacy, and an American leader in his pocket.
It was a KGB-trained grandmaster playing checkers against a guy who cheats at golf. And it was painfully obvious who walked away with the prize.
And let's be clear, this has very deep roots. From Russian money bailing out his failed businesses to the endless stream of oligarch cash. Trump has always been what the KGB calls a useful idiot. The terrifying part is that this useful idiot just gift-wrapped American credibility, put a bow on it, and handed it directly to Putin on a golden platter.
And here's where it stops being a bizarre political story and starts being a direct threat to us, Canada. In his brief remarks, Trump casually referred to Mariupol as prime oceanfront property.
He doesn't see Ukraine as a sovereign nation. He sees a real estate deal. He talked about Ukraine swapping land for peace. Well, you know what? That's Putin's playbook word for word. Take, occupy, and get the world to normalize it.
So, let me ask this obvious question. If that's how he sees Ukraine, what do you think he sees when he looks at Canada?
He sees the world's largest pantry. He sees our critical minerals, our oil, our fresh water, and he sees strategic Arctic shipping routes that he thinks should belong to him. He doesn't see an ally, he sees a resource-rich property that needs a new owner.
He's already called for Canada to become the 51st state. He's already hit us with tariffs, calling us a national security threat. What happened in Alaska wasn't a change in policy, it was a public declaration of his intent.
And the history of his financial ties to Russia makes this all the more chilling. This isn't just a political theory, you just have to follow the money. After all his massive bankruptcies in the 90s, no reputable American bank would even look at him. So where did he get all that cash from?
Well, there's the infamous Florida mansion he bought for $41 million and in the middle of a housing crash, sold it to a Russian oligarch for a staggering $95 million. A deal that made no financial sense. And there's the hundreds of millions in all cash sales from his condos to anonymous shell companies, a classic vehicle for Russian laundering money. His lender of last resort for years was the Deutsche Bank, a German bank fined hundreds of millions of dollars for laundering, you guessed it, Russian money.
When you lay it all out like that, it's not a conspiracy, it's a business model.
And honestly, we're just scratching the surface here.
It's way too much to get into in one video, but people need to know this.
That's why today we published a brand new deep dive on our Substack. It's called From Rubles to Red Carpets, Following the Money from Moscow to Mar-a-Lago. We'll connect all the dots that a 15-minute video just doesn't have time for. And just when you think that this can't get any more ridiculous, enter Joseph Martin, a freshman state senator from Maine. This guy literally wrote an open letter to Alberta and Saskatchewan offering to adopt them.
I wish we were making this up. He basically put out an adoption notice like we were a litter of puppies at the pound. Come live with us, little provinces. We'll give you a forever home. Just as long as you promise to stop talking about healthcare.
Now, hold on. When you think of Maine, you think of Stephen King, fresh lobster rolls, all those cool breweries in Portland. You think of a pretty reasonable bluish state, right?
Well, Senator Martin is not from that Maine. He represents the deep rural part of the state, a district that probably considers Portland a hostile foreign country. And his professional background explains everything.
Before getting into politics, what was his decades-long career? He was an executive in the international mineral extraction industry. A guy whose entire job was flying to places like Zaire, Sierra Leone, and Zimbabwe to pull valuable resources out of the ground.
So when a man whose entire life has been about looking at foreign land and calculating its resource value looks our way, he doesn't see a sovereign nation with a unique culture, he sees a prospecting opportunity. To him, this isn't a political offer, it's a preliminary takeover bid.
He invited Western Canada to join the US to escape our political baggage. You know, things like universal healthcare, bilingualism, and our Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Political baggage? Buddy, our charter guarantees us rights and healthcare. Your constitution, it guarantees you the right to go bankrupt from a sprained ankle.
Thankfully, BC Conservative MLA Brennan Day delivered an absolutely legendary clapback. He wrote, and I'm quoting here, "We're Canadian. We're proud of it. Not confused, not for sale, and not going anywhere." He told the senator flat out, "We're not just Americans with a maple leaf sticker, man."
That's the kind of spine we're talking about. We measure freedom by whether our health card works, not by how many guns we can fit in our pickup trucks. Now, while some politicians are standing up for Canada, others seem to be auditioning for the grievance politics choir. Case in point, Danielle Smith's recent town hall in Edmonton.
Oh, this was a beauty. She gets up on stage and opens with, "When Edmonton speaks, we listen." The room's immediate response? A symphony of boos, heckles, laughs, and a few choice F-bombs. She lost the room faster than a vegan at a rib fest.
This is the same premier who refuses to sign the Canada Together pledge. It's a simple, nonpartisan statement of national unity. Why? Because her entire political strategy is imported from Trump-style populist playbooks. Create division, stoke grievance, and flirt with separatism.
And let's connect the dots here. What's the #1 way to make a country vulnerable to a hostile takeover? You divide it against itself. Smith's separatist footsie game isn't just bad domestic policy, it's practically rolling out a welcome mat for the kind of predatory politics Trump represents.
But it's not all doom and gloom. There are moments that show you what Canada is made of. And it often comes down to how we handle bullies and the economy.
Which brings us to the ongoing tariff tantrum. America's ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, can't stand that guy, still has the nerve to go on TV and whine that we're the ones sabotaging the trade deal.
Sabotaging it?
Let's look at the actual scorecard, shall we? Because, while they're crying foul, the economic numbers tell a very, very different story.
Here's the short version. America is inflating and Canada is deflating. And Trump's tariffs, they're the reason.
In July, U.S. consumer prices jumped 2.7% compared to the last year. Core inflation, which is prices without food and energy, spiked back up to 3%. Meanwhile, in Canada, well, we're chilling at 1.7%. Under control. Our central bank even cut interest rates to 2.75%. And the feds? They stuck at 4.5%.
And here's why. Tariffs are basically a tax on everything Americans buy. Companies, they're not charity cases. They pass those costs right on to the consumer. That's not sticking it to China or punishing Canada. That's just raising prices at Walmart.
It's the oldest trick in the oligarch playbook. Take money out of working class pockets, funnel it into billionaires, and wrap it in a flag. One economist compared it to a shakedown. It's like a tax collector saying, "Hey buddy, give me $100 so I can cut a check to Jeff Bezos."
And the mega crowd cheers while getting boiled like frogs. They're slowly paying more for everything, thinking it's patriotic, when really it's just subsidizing billionaires' yachts.
And the jobs? Well, U.S. job creation cratered in May, June, and July. In Canada, we're not immune to that either. We lost 40,000 jobs in July, especially in the steel, autos, and forestry sectors. But remember, our inflation's stable, our rates are lower, and we added 83,000 jobs in June. So the fundamentals here are stronger, and we have better social safety nets. We don't need to worry about healthcare coverage if we lose our jobs.
So what's the lesson here? Economists predicted this. Nobody wins a trade war. It's bad economics dressed up as nationalism. Americans are paying more, losing jobs, and getting told it's a victory. Meanwhile, Canadians, we don't panic. We diversify trade, we invest at home, and we spend Canadian dollars in Canadian communities.
And that's the real power move, right? Every buck that we spend here in Canada on food, travel, even whiskey instead of bourbon, it circulates in our own economy instead of bailing out billionaires.
So yeah, let Trump's America boil itself. We're keeping our cool and our money right here, baby.
Which is exactly why our response to those tariffs has been so simple and so effective. The Great Canadian Booze Boycott.
It turns out that nothing gets under the skin of a U.S. lobbyist faster than a warehouse full of unsold Jack Daniels.
So listen, Pete, with all due respect, check the scoreboard before you start whining. We didn't start this fight, but we're showing that we're more than willing to finish it.
All right, before we wrap this up, we need to talk about what's happening in Alberta. This is a perfect example of everything we've been discussing. The political circus has a new main event, and it's the by-election in Battle River Crowfoot.
Oh, you mean the by-election that's basically a political witness protection program for Pierre Poilievre? That one? Let's get this straight. He gets booted by his own voters in his home riding in Ontario, and what happens? Well, the party machine kicks out loyal MPs and parachutes Poilievre into the safest conservative seat in the entire country.
But this just isn't about one guy getting his seat back. This is a test. It's about what that seat has come to represent. It's in the heartland of the same divisive, anti-Ottawa sentiment that Danielle Smith sings about in her Trump fan club hymn sheet.
And frankly, we're tired of it. We know there's tons of Albertans who are proud Canadians, who believe in this country, and whose voices get drowned out by that noise machine. We are tired of a loud minority parroting talking points from big oil lobbyists and American culture warriors.
We've been saying elbows up this whole video. Well, Alberta, this is your chance to show us what that looks like. You have a choice. You can vote for the party machine, or you can send a message. There's a strong independent candidate and a strong Liberal leader, along with the 200 plus protest candidates as well.
So, to the voters of Battle River Crowfoot, we're asking you to stand up for our country. Let's see those elbows up. Show Canada that the loudest voices in your province don't speak for all of you. Okay, before we do the final recap, we have to hand out our unofficial Troll of the Week award.
And this week's Golden Pitchfork goes to, without a doubt, California Governor Gavin Newsom for his masterful work trolling Donald Trump.
It's a thing of beauty. turning Trump's all-caps rage tweeting against him is the ultimate political recycling program.
He's out there posting things like, Donald is Finnish, he's no longer hot, and he's mocking his so tiny hands. But my personal favorite is claiming Trump can't do the big stairs on Air Force One anymore. He uses the little baby stairs now.
It really is a brilliant strategy. Newsom has basically said he's just following Trump's example to show everyone about how absurd the president's own communications are. He's adopting the persona to fight fire with fire, and it's working. The White House is so rattled, they put out a statement calling him New Scum.
Hey, when you get an official misspelled insult from the White House, you know you've won the internet for the day. So, Governor Newsom, thank you for turning political satire into a weapon for democracy. And for his services to both sanity and comedy, we say this.
Thank you for your attention in this matter. So let's recap. Putin is up 1-0 in the global puppet show. Trump is cheering from the sidelines, ready to cash in. And you've got mega-light politicians in Canada actively weakening the country from within.
But then you have Canadians like you and me, everyday people and principled leaders drawing a line in the sand. We're fighting back with trade, with words, and with a fierce sense of national pride that some of our neighbors seem to have forgotten that we have.
This is no longer a what if. This is happening now. We've traveled to over 120 countries, and we've seen firsthand what happens when bullies take over and strong nations get carved up. We recognize the pattern.
The blueprint for a Canadian surrender was put on full display at that disastrous Alaskan love fest. The question isn't if they'll try to use it on us. The question is, what are we going to do to make sure that it fails?
So, we want to know what you think. What worries you more? Trump's complete surrender to a dictator like Putin, or the fact that his playbook has Canada's name written all over it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's talk about it.
We said what we said, and we're not backing down. Thanks everyone for watching.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video.
If you believe in our elbows up mission and want our unfiltered analysis delivered right into your inbox, the single best way to support this work is to sign up. The link is right at the top of the description.